Citizenship by investment programs allow almost anyone with a clean record to get a second passport, generally in under a year, generally without having to leave their home, all by making an investment or donation to another country. And today, I'm going to share with you the cheapest citizenship by investment programs for 2025. I'm a big believer in having a second passport, and these days I'm a believer that most people should have a third passport. There's other ways to do it, including ancestral ties or moving to another country. What a lot of our clients want is a plan B. They don't want to or they can't move somewhere else. They don't have anyone in the family tree they can claim citizenship from. This is their first step. If you have other ways to get a second passport, you might do that first, and this could be your third passport. We're going to go through the cheapest donation options, where rather than making an investment, you're just going to give the country money. In exchange, they're going to give you citizenship that's good for the rest of your life. So we're not going to factor in Turkey or Egypt or Jordan, where they have real estate investments that you can sell later. These are the actual cheapest cash outlay programs that you can participate in. And we start with one that's pretty niche. It's probably not a plan B. It's probably not a plan C. It is Sierra Leone in West Africa. We told you a number of months ago they have a residence program. Now they have this fast-track citizenship program. Now, if you have ancestral connections to West Africa, you can get it for $100,000. But for the rest of us, $140,000 all in. And they've packaged that in a way that's interesting to mention. What you'll see is a lot of companies in the citizenship business will market such and such citizenship, $200,000 donation, and they won't tell you the fees. And then there's, application fees and due diligence fees, and there's bank fees, and there's passport fees, and then there's their fees. And people just market that headline number. What's interesting here is Sierra Leone is saying, give us $140,000. That's the due diligence. That's the passport. That's everything that you need, inclusive of the donation you're making to our country. One kit and caboodle, and then you just pay whomever's going to help you get that passport on top of that. So it's a pretty transparent structure. Should most people get this passport? Probably not. I do think having some kind of African residence or citizenship is not the worst thing for something that's different from the kind of country that you're in. If you're a Westerner, Africa's charting their own path. You could have some real benefits. Having an African passport, I'm not sure this is the one for most people. It is the cheapest by $1,700. And so number two is the South Pacific island nation of Nauru. They come in at $141,700 when you add in all the fees. We had previously told you it was $500 more than Sierra Leone. There appears to be a new bank due diligence and transaction charge. So these are prices for single applicants, by the way. So in Sierra Leone, $140,000, you are a citizen. In Nauru, $141,700. You're a citizen, and they're saying they're going to do strong due diligence, strong KYC, but they're going to get these done faster than some of the Caribbean countries, which means you'll be able to get your citizenship in potentially well under a year, soup to nuts. So let's just go through, because Nauru does break this down. What does it look like? It's $105,000 for a single principal applicant. That's the contribution that you're making. And in Nauru's case, it's to a climate resilience program. Now, I realize the average person who wants a second citizenship, what do I care? They're building palm trees, they're building houses. I do think, and I got the St. Lucian citizenship by investment many years ago, I do take some pride that these very small countries actually have to use that money efficiently. It's not a big bloated monstrosity like the Western country you might be watching this from. They actually put that money to use to help their people and to help their country. $105,000 is what they're putting to use. They charge you a $25,000 application fee, $10,000 for due diligence. They're not doing it locally in Nauru. They're sourcing it out. So it's, generally these CBI programs, very high quality due diligence. This is not for people who have, any kind of serious criminal record, for example. $1,200 for a single principal applicant for the bank due diligence fee, because the money has to come in. So the bank does some screening and kind of a bureaucratic fee. And then $500 passport fee. So that's more than the average person is going to pay for their passport. Generally, I can't say I pay that much attention to this. Generally speaking, I think in some of these countries, you just pay the regular passport issuance fee, although I think there's some places where they do charge you like $500 to renew your passport as well. But Nauru for a single is $141,700. What's interesting here is if you want to have up to 3 dependents, so you plus 3 dependents, you can get that for a $110,000 donation, so only $5,000 more. And then all you're going to do is pay a slightly higher application fee and due diligence fee and bank due diligence fee, and then passport fee per passport. So the difference between a single person and a family of 4 isn't going to be that much of a bigger deal. Nauru is a substantially better passport for travel. Obviously, people haven't really heard much about Nauru, which my standard for a second passport like this is it needs to be different and it needs to be neutral. If you're American and you can get your Canadian passport, by all means do it. Realize it's not that different. You want something that is a little bit different. You want something that is neutral. Who's Nauru bothering? I mean, really, who doesn't like Nauru? No one's even heard of Nauru. So they come in at number 2, and I think for the extra $1,700, a substantially better deal. Now, let's go to the Caribbean, where they have 5 different citizenship buy investment programs in what's called the Eastern Caribbean states. So you get one of these passports, and you can live in any of the 6 Eastern Caribbean states, and you've got additional privileges in the larger Caribbean community region, which includes places like Belize, Jamaica, a little bit further afield from the Eastern Caribbean. So this is a passport where if you're worried about what if one country raises their taxes, or what if one country becomes a little heavy-handed with something, if you're Dominican, you can go and live in tax-free St. Kitts and Nevis. You can go and live in tax-friendly Antigua. You've got options. And so if you are, let's just say, an American, right now you can live in one country. If you're Dominican, now you can live in 7 countries, 1 plus 6 new ones. You're not a citizen of all those 6 countries, but your citizenship allows you flexibility, kind of sort of like, hey, I can move from California to Texas. Dominica, $210,000 donation plus the basic fee. So I added those in together for you. That's the amount you've got to pay. Now, in addition to that, there are going to be some other costs. You have to pay someone to run that application for you. You have to have an agent. You can't just file it yourself. What they also have in Dominica is you can invest in real estate, $200,000 in real estate. You're going to hold that for 3 to 5 years. Well, wait a second. Why would I donate $200,000 and then I've added $10,000 in fees when I can just buy $200,000 in real estate and get my money back? Well, because depending on how many people, there's $75,000 in special fees on top of that, plus the basic fees. So you can donate or you can do the real estate. The real estate you got to hold, okay, hey, you'll hold it for as long as you have to. It's an asset still in the books rather than a donation, but you're going to pay potentially about 37.5% of that amount still as a donation for them to process your application, because Dominica does want to encourage people to come and build hotels, for example, and build tourist facilities. Dominica now, for about the last maybe 2 years, has nonstop flights from Miami. It used to be harder to get to. So they do want to encourage development there. It's one of the more reserved countries in the region. But they still got to wet their beaks. They can't just have the developer getting the $200,000. They got to get their fees, and that's the $50,000 to $75,000, depending on the application size. And so my position is, if you want to go and live in what's generally going to be a timeshare for that price, you can. Just because their requirement's $200,000 doesn't mean there's anything for sale for $200,000, and you have to buy from approved real estate developers. Understand, and I get a lot of flack from this from the industry, a lot of those developers will pay commissions. And there's been, some of the commissions are just straight up, hey, it's a commission. And then if you go to places like China or parts of the Middle East, there's sometimes some shady stuff going on, which it's cracked down on. And so make sure you're not getting into the shady stuff that gets cracked down on. But when you buy real estate, understand someone's going to get paid a commission for that. And those commissions can be relatively hefty. And what does a relatively hefty commission mean for your investment? It means you're probably not going to sell it for what you paid for it. And so the fact that the government can ratchet up and down those investment criteria, let's say you buy yours for $200,000 and 5 years from now, you want to sell it to someone. What if the investment requirement's $400,000 now? Who's going to buy your $200,000 property? I don't think that a 1 week or 2 week timeshare is going to double in value in Dominica. They're building a whole bunch of them. So I just think that at some point it's worth just paying the donation and being done with it. But this is the kind of thing we talk to our clients about. There's been 1 or 2 cases where somebody wanted to make a more substantial investment in real estate. And I said, okay, in your case, it might make sense. But just to go down and invest the bare minimum, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. We look at different projects. Maybe there's one I haven't seen. We have a business that charges clients a fee. We give them unbiased advice. We don't just do Caribbean citizenship. We have dozens of different programs that we have access to. So our goal isn't to make a commission from you, buying real estate in Dominica. But that's the cheapest one there. Antigua and Barbuda, $248,500. Here's the cool thing. You can have up to a family of 4 for that price. They've always been the leaders in bring your family of 4, and it's basically the same price. So the $248,500 includes some of the basic fees for you, and then if you want to add up to 3 extra people, you just pay the additional fees for them. So under 10 grand generally per additional person. So you're not increasing that. Doesn't matter if you're single, but if you have a family, Antigua and Barbuda potentially has always been a bit more interesting for families. St. Lucia is also going down that direction, just a little bit more expensive at $250,000. That includes the basic fees for a single. You can add a family of 4 for just, again, the additional fees. St. Lucia also had an option. And this is one I do like a bit more because no one's getting a commission. No one has a conflict of interest in this one. St. Lucia is a bond program, $300,000 in bonds. You get no interest, and then you pay $50,000 in fees, right? So they don't make any money on the bonds per se, other than they get the use of your money. Like Dominica, they're going to charge that $50,000 fee. So that's your donation. But it's a smaller percentage, of course. And you can have the family of 4 on there. And then you just pay the basic fees on top of that. So, family of 4, it still might be close to $100,000 plus the professional fees. But a bond program, if you think that, do your due diligence on those bonds, that could be something that you can just more easily redeem than having to find someone to buy your property in a property where they've built a lot of other properties. I mean, you never want to be the guy selling one of 50 properties somewhere. I don't know if it's 50 or 10 or 150, but you get the point. So St. Lucia scores well, particularly if you have some liquidity, you want to tie up some cash into the bond option. I personally, if it were my money, I like that better. Now, I became a St. Lucian long ago. I don't believe the bond option existed back then, but I am no longer eligible. If I had done another Caribbean citizenship program, I'd be tempted just as a part of the collection to do St. Lucia with the bond program because $50,000 in processing fees, it's a pretty affordable citizenship, assuming you get that bond investment back. Obviously, opportunity cost has to be factored in. So, Sierra Leone, Nauru, Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda, and St. Lucia, those are in order the most affordable places to get citizenship by investment. However, let's talk about some of the wild cards. There are other ways that you can get citizenship. We've talked about citizenship by descent if you have ancestry. However, you could go and you could start a business somewhere and you could invest money in hiring people and actually making an investment in a country, and you could be given citizenship. Austria is one example. If we're talking multi-millions, you can sometimes get citizenship in Austria if you get somebody in a local region to recommend you, and it kind of works its way through. There's a process where people have gotten that. Not a lot of people every year, but that's one program that has been talked about over the years, whether you donate money to Austria or whether you actually start some kind of business or save a business. There are other European Union countries where that has been possible at various times. I mean, some of them are just ridiculous. I think that there's one country in Central Europe where if you invest 100 million euros, they'll personally come and pass a resolution giving you citizenship. In the UAE, some billionaires and people like Kevin O'Leary have been given Emirati citizenship. But there are other countries where you can invest much less. There's even a couple places where just buying real estate could potentially qualify you for citizenship. These programs are not always guaranteed. The one thing about citizenship by investment programs is, there's due diligence. And if it turns out you've got a criminal record or you've got a lot of problems, then you might be denied. But those things should all be easily screenable for going in. What's possible about these fast-track naturalization programs is, they're never guaranteed. Now, I'm not talking about putting money in a bag for the Mexican program. How many people have done the Mexican program over the years where some guy is getting money to put in the system? I'm talking about by the letter of the law. Here's the law. This person's allowed to do this that gives you citizenship for this reason. And so I believe we have one of the most comprehensive lists internally of citizenships that you can get anywhere in the world. And we've got a team that finds the local experts, lawyers in many cases, to help our clients get that. So if you come to us as our client and we determine Antigua and Barbuda off the shelf, done and dusted, here's your passport, then we'll do that. If you want to get a couple of different passports for your family, we'll go through all the different programs, whether it's citizenship by investment outside of island countries, whether it's fast track programs, whether it's descent, whether it's naturalization. We have access to all those programs, and you're going to have those options. You're going to pay us a fee for unbiased advice and not get the free consultation where they're going to shove one of their only 3 options down your throat and not tell you about all the other options that you may qualify for. I do believe we have more options than pretty much anybody else out there. We're always researching them. We have a network of folks all around the world. People have said, oh, Nomad Capitalist is the middleman. Well, if sending people to East Africa to meet lawyers and government officials to try and figure out, is there a legal way to grant people citizenship for making investments in property? If that's a middleman, I don't know who else is flying people to East Africa to figure that out, but we are. If you want to put that expertise to work for you, Whether you want East Africa or something else, you go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, and we'll be happy to help you. We look for $1 million in liquid assets to be a client, or if you're just starting out, $500,000 per year in income, we'll do it as well. We can help you with taxes, residence, citizenship, asset protection. We do it all under one roof with a network of people all around the world. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. You may not need the cheapest second passport. It may be worth spending an extra $10,000 or $25,000. Or in some cases, we'll tell people, don't be looking at these. Sometimes cheapest isn't best. And other times we've seen clients that have come in from elsewhere and we save them $50,000 because they were being sold something they didn't need. So that's what having a holistic approach does. You get it at nomadcapitalist.com/apply.
This is an 18th century palace in Lisbon, Portugal, and it's literally one of the most elegant fine dining restaurants anywhere in Europe. And I'm going to be showing you luxury living in Portugal here, and showing you penthouses and palaces for sale that you can live in with some of the best views of the city. And taking you to an exclusive members club that you can join, where old money and new money meet here in Lisbon. We're shopping for top brands along Lisbon's 5th Avenue, visiting a catamaran in Lisbon's harbor to show you how you can buy a boat here, and meeting Michelin star chefs and drinking amazing Portuguese wine to show you the good life in Lisbon. This is how to live like a king.